Chapter 5. Thursday, December 17, 1991. After we made our coffee and ate breakfast, we showered and got ready for the day. It was -7 degrees when we awoke. It had snowed at least a foot overnight. The steam from our breath could be seen, even indoors. Ashton and I agreed not to tell the rest of the group about last night when we meet up with them later. It may cause more confusion than calm. We took our time running our errands before heading into the heart of North Oak. We got lunch at an old sandwich shop. After we went to the thrift store a few blocks away. I got a new wallet and a pair of pants. Ashton bought a snow beanie and 2 pairs of thick long johns. Ashton handed me a pair she found in a bin. "They are your size, Forrest. You have to wear them, sweetheart. Remember last year, how bad we needed these? I will throw them in the dryer when we are home. That way they are warm when we go out." We took our bags back to the car, then walked a couple of blocks to the bookstore that sat on the corner. Ashton bought 2 new books and a new bookmark before we made our way to the record store. Ashton bought a Ramones hoodie and a Nirvana record along with a music catalog that has the notes for every song on the album. She usually does this when she buys an album she's had an eye on. She will buy the tablature and learn her favorite songs from the album. She will play them until a new album comes along. I like Nirvana, so I am glad she's picked this one up. We took a nap when we got home. At 5:30 p.m., we made our way over to Jake's house. We all took some shots before pouring our drinks. Taylor had a record playing in her room we could hear from downstairs. We all piled onto the couches and watched a movie. It felt a lot better in Jake's house than it did mine. The snow was coming down harder than it has been all week. The street lights gradually came on, lighting the road with that dim yellow glow. The wind was howling once again. Ed took another shot before turning the television back over to cable. We added more wood to the fire while Ashton and Kendall opened up another bottle of Malbec. "I almost forgot, I developed the pictures," Ed said, looking over at his backpack. Ed has a green room he built in his garage. He got in a lot of trouble when his dad found out. Somehow over time, his father let him keep it. Now we use it to develop pictures from our investigations. There were around 50 photos in total. As Ed brought out the large stack of pictures, he stumbled and dropped them onto the floor. They scattered across the rug. "My bad, I've been drinking," he said, bending down to grab what he could. 3 pictures fell next to Ashton's feet. As she flipped one over, her eyes grew wide. She put the photo in her jacket pocket and handed the others back to Ed with a smile. She looked over at me once we sat back down and placed one finger over her lips. "You did not see a thing," she whispered delicately. We all walked over to the dining room table and spread out the photos. Kendall printed out some other pictures before we got there. They were from an article that was written by the journalist Mr. Rivers. The articles exposed the institution before it closed in 1973. We also had some photos we found on the floor from in the desks. I reached into my bag and brought out the small stack I found on the floor of one of the rooms. The photos are unsettling by nature and didn't capture much at first other than a few shadows and a couple of doorways. "No way," Jake said with a sense of excitement and nervousness. He placed the picture on the table. It looked like a nun by the staircase. A tall figure in a black robe. There was no face, its feet were not touching the ground. Another photo was of a child sitting naked in the center of the floor. His back is turned but he appeared alone and scared. The television began to flip through the channels. We all grew quiet as we watched the green volume bars reduced to nothing. About a minute later, the TV turned off. No one said a word. We have learned not to address these things when they happen, so we all walked outside for a cigarette. We stood under an awning in the backyard. The tree line in Jake's backyard was about 40 feet away and was blanketed in a thick, dense fog. The moonlight illuminated tiny portions of the snow in front of the tree line. "We were supposed to visit Blanca today," Kendall stated as she put out her grit. "Fuck, I completely forgot," Ed responded. "I'll call her tonight and let her know we can see her on Saturday," he suggested as he took the wine glass from Kendall before stumbling through the door. He was a bit drunk. We walked through the sliding door, and back into the living room. Once we gathered our things, we made our way through the kitchen and out the front door. We all hugged once more before parting ways. After we dropped Taylor off, "We are coming over," Jake shouted as we pulled out the driveway. "Sure thing, fuckface," I shouted back as I started driving down the street. We went slow, the radio played softly while I tried to avoid the potholes. Once we got inside, I fed Grim. I then poured both of us some red wine and sat next to her on the couch. Her eyes met mine after we took a sip from our glasses. "We are okay, darling, we are okay. I know, my love, this is something so new, I'm still processing everything, too," Ashton said as she ran her hands through her hair. "But we are going to be okay," she said with a smile, while we made our way to our street. Once inside, we took off our boots and coats before finding our spot on the couch. Ashton grabbed another bottle of red wine from the cabinet along with 2 glasses. We watched the news for about an hour, periodically talking about last night and what we have found. Ashton reached into her pocket and brought out the photo. It was from inside the main gathering hall. You could see the giant fireplace with the photo of Bishop Turner above it. To the right was a small figure. I looked closer. It was a boy. He was looking away from the camera. Ashton's finger pointed to a large shadow-like figure sitting upright in a chair just left of the fireplace. You could barely see it due to the nearly black background. "The figure is tall. Very tall." Ashton and I stared at the photo in a little bit of silence. The room was quiet. Our ceiling fan in the dining room was installed on an angle. We could hear the faint rattling and soft squeaking. We eventually put the photo between 2 pages of a book on a shelf in the living room. We continued to drink our wine and share theories of what occurred at Willow Creek. We both agreed that we were a little on edge, but we were still feeling good about winter break. After some time talking about it, we started to forget our worries, and we felt a lot better, especially after we killed a bottle of red wine. Ashton grew flirty while I entertained it. She slapped my ass, as I walked past to grab another bottle. The more we drink, the more physical we get. After she jumped on my back, we wound up on the rug next to Grim. We wrestle with each other a lot when we are at home. We are both extremely playful by nature. She gets this fierce look in her eyes, accompanied by a smile and a whole lot of laughing. "Fight me, Forrest," she said as she rolled me over, pinning me to the ground. I brought my fingers up to her ribs before picking her up and tossing her onto the couch. I stood up and began walking quickly towards the stairs. Ashton ran up behind me, turned me around, and pinned me into the wall. She kissed me hard, as she started to unbutton my shirt. Ashton is a deep and passionate girl. She loves thoroughly and without apology, a type of love I didn't know existed until her. We made our way upstairs. The moon was glowing through a break in the clouds. The moon's light made its way into the bedroom, illuminating parts of our skin as well as the covers and floor. Her skin is soft, her movements are tranquil, her words are delicate, her moans are gentle. 2 minutes later, we lay in bed, smoking our cigarettes and talking about what else we were going to do during the winter break. Our bare skin pressed to each other as we remained entwined. After some time, I let her fall asleep. I laid awake as the wind howled past the window. I could not seem to shut my eyes. I got up to smoke a cigarette by the window while Ashton lay naked on top of the quilt that was hanging off the bed behind me. She is still fast asleep. There is a lot on my mind tonight. I think that's why I'm here writing at 2 a.m. It felt good in the house. We were enjoying our time at home without my grandparents. I am ready to start this winter break. I'm beginning to like writing. It helps me put my thoughts in order. A glass of wine, cigarettes, and a stormy winter night. I often find myself staring out the window, fixed on the glow from the street lamps. I'm going to have to call it quits for tonight. I'm beginning to fall asleep. I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling until I finally was able to shut my eyes as my mind began to drift. Right as I started to dream, I felt a nudge on my shoulder. Baby, please wake up," Ashton said while sitting up in the bed. The bedroom door was open. The clock read 3:07 a.m. Static could be heard from the backpack leaned up against the wall next to the closet. I got up and opened the bag. Before I could grab it, a voice began to sound.
"I found you."
My skin grew cold, my eyes began to water as my brain tried to make sense of it. I pulled the batteries out of the back before putting them in the backpack. I walked across the room and put my pack back in the closet. Ashton's lip began to tremble as she reached out to hug me. I held her as she shook slightly in my arms. She was terrified as I was. After a few moments, we turned on our TV and sat in our chairs by the window. The late-night news was covering another disappearance, this time a woman in her 30s. I turned on the radiator and grabbed my lighter from the drawer. Ashton brought out the weed and a glass bong from the box in the closet. We stayed up watched the night by the window. It was apparent neither of us were tired. We decided to go on a walk, something we usually do when we both can't sleep. Down the street, a little way into the trees, you'll find a fort that we made out the fallen branches and leaves when we were all 14. There is a gap between two houses down the street from us. An empty lot sat between two properties and housed the power lines. You could always hear the buzzing when you walk under it. There is a hole in the fence that workers have not fixed since we cut it years ago. The path ran through the empty lot and into the tree line. We hollowed out a section in the forest and built a large hut with a strong covering made of large fallen trees. We have a few benches and a large oak coffee table we stole from a garage sale. One side of the hut was kept completely open and faced a small creek facing south. The hut was large enough to house a small fire pit. We carved out sections of trees to house the candles we light every time we enter. We also have 3 large candles in the center of the coffee table. We kept 2 fire extinguishers, one on both ends of the hut. We nicknamed this spot the den. This is where we go when we want to get away from everyone else. Ashton walks here when she wants to be alone. I do the same. Jake and Kendall get into some bad fights from time to time. I have met Jake here countless times in the night, and we talk about it. Ed uses the den mostly to read but also to get away from his dad when he gets too drunk. It is a safe spot to be alone when you need to be. We got inside and lit the candles and built a fire. We lit our cigarettes and passed a thermal with coffee back and forth. We started to go through our stack of photos again. I then brought out the pages we printed about Willow Creek while Ashton read Mrs. Bringston's journal. The fire kept us warm while we did our best to keep a decent state of mind. We made it home by 4:15. We probably didn't fall asleep until 4:40 a.m. SS D D D D D D F F F F F G G G G G G G G G H H H H H H H H K H E R E H E I S H E R E E E